Good morning, it's Witness Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing great. It's a beautiful day. Sun is up. It's a little chilly where I am. Birds are singing. I'm looking forward to a busy day. I'm volunteering with a family in need. Do it a couple of times a month. As a disabled veteran from the Air Force. And her son who has brain injury, who's disabled as well. And just want to talk to you today about doing what Jesus did. It's a bold statement. But I didn't really say it, he did. I want to tell you about a time, about this same time last year. It was last May, I think. I walked into the dining room and I saw that my beautiful husband was in extreme pain. I could tell by the look on his face, I could tell by the way he was holding his belly, that he was having a gallbladder attack. Now, before I met him, he had had such an extreme gallbladder attack, he ended up in the emergency room and they had scheduled him for surgery, but he said, no, I want to recover naturally. So he went home and went through the pain and went through the processes and went through a couple of detoxes and recovered. And this day when I walked in the dining room, I remember back to, I think, 1 or 2 nights before we were having dinner together. And he was eating a lot of cheese. I mean, a lot. And I said, that's a lot of cheese. But anyway, some people would say, well, if you're going to eat a lot of cheese, that's the result. And it is. It really was a very extremely painful result to have your gallbladder start to malfunction. And I happen to be pretty experienced with that in my family. I've had 5 close family members have their gallbladders removed. 2 of them under extreme circumstances. They each had gangrene, which means they could have died. It was a very, toxic situation to the whole body. But I saw that my husband needed help. There's an example of when you're squeezed, what you're full of comes out, like the toothpaste tube. When the toothpaste tube gets squeezed, what's in there comes out. So at that moment, I was being squeezed. I could have reacted in fear and said, oh my gosh, let's call 911. And I could have reacted in faith and said, let's pray. And thank God I did react in faith. And I called the Lord's 911. So I instantly said, Garrett, what is wrong? Are you okay? And he told me what was happening. And I immediately laid hands on him and prayed. It wasn't a long prayer. It wasn't a lofty prayer. It was the love of a wife prayer. And by the time I was finished, the whole thing was gone. The whole episode was healed. And he had a normal day. He got up and had the rest of his day. Now, I've been challenged lately about my ability to do this from someone who's been respectfully challenging me about, this might have died with the apostles. Hey, good morning. Ironically, I took a different route today to avoid traffic. So, I have someone who has respectfully, I would say, tenderly, kindly, been challenging me on whether or not we can pray today and have miracles like I just described with my own husband at our dining room table, where, medically, if we'd gone to the emergency room, they would have prepped him for surgery. But within like a minute, I don't even think I prayed a minute, he was completely healed and got up and had a normal day. And, some would say he deserved that because he ate. He overwhelmed his whole body and brain, actually, with the cheese. But that's okay. God is even bigger than our mistakes, right? Let's talk about how I did that. First of all, I didn't do that. I just obeyed. Jesus told us when he came, don't be afraid. I know you've messed up. I know that we all deserve the penalty for sin, which is death. But he came in love to pay that penalty. And he went to the cross and he was beaten and more than beaten. That word does not contain the experience that he took on himself. He was accused, slandered, rejected even by the closest ones that he loved. He was betrayed. Maybe I said that. I'll say it again. That was Judas. He was betrayed, he was beaten, he was slandered, he was rejected. And for some of these, he even knew, he obviously knew ahead of time, but he told them, you're going to deny me 3 times. And then after that, he restored that one. Even though that person had denied him not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'm not saying 3 is the limit, but Jesus knew it would be 3 times. So if you have ever, or if you know anyone, like right now today, you're praying for someone who has rejected Jesus once, twice, 3 times, don't fear. Faith it. Faith it until you see it. That means you have faith, you walk in faith, you declare the word of God. Like when I was praying for my husband who was having a severe gallbladder attack. I had faith that God could and would heal it. And I declared that he would heal it. I submitted that malfunctioning gallbladder to God's kingdom where that does not exist. And I called down on earth as it is in heaven a fully functioning gallbladder. And God answered my prayer. Not because I'm a favorite, but I'm a favorite, if you know what I mean. But because my faith was that conduit for God. I just surrendered myself in that moment for God to love my husband through me and to release what was his and what he needed in that moment. That's what love is. Love is surrendering to the Father so the Father can love through you. It's easy to love the lovely people, right? I spent some time last night with a girlfriend, and it was fun, and it was easy. But sometimes you have to spend time with people who come against you, or people who don't understand you, or who you don't understand. But if you always walk in submission to the will of God and surrender to the Father to love people through you, then you are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And that's how it works. John 14:12 is where Jesus said everything that he came on earth to do, that we would do, and even greater. So as you look through your day to day, you're going to look at maybe some business items, some family items, friend items, whatever realms of the world you're going to walk through today. Ask God, how do I love this person? How do I do what you did and even greater? And again, it is not me. I'm just a willing vessel, a flawed vessel. But I love God. I want his gifts that have been paid through Jesus to be received by his children. We just had Easter where we shared family traditions. We shared some more about the resurrection and some more about the Easter bunny. But we shared the table, we shared our love for one another. We shared stories. We shared candy, we shared cake, we shared food. And that's what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to share what is in the kingdom of heaven that he's already given us. So when Jesus said we would do those things that he did, and even greater, the first thing he did was love. He loved those who had rejected him. He loved them who betrayed him. And he provided for them to go forward to be like him. Now, I am saying I'm like Jesus. Okay? I'm not saying I'm perfect and sinless like he is. Except that, guess what? I'm perfect and sinless because he is. But I want to challenge you today. You're going to walk through your day today and you're going to have things come up that you didn't expect or things that you did expect. And you have a choice. You can operate in fear or you can operate in faith. And I'm talking to the saints here. I'm equipping the saints. Whatever you face today, God has already met that need. You just have to call it down on earth as it is in heaven. Even if it's a financial need. Submit that problem, that lack, to the kingdom of God where it doesn't exist and call down on earth as it is in heaven, whatever the fulfillment of that need is. So I challenge you today to label what you're feeling and sensing when things come up. Is it faith or is it fear? And once you start to label what's going on inside of you, you'll be able to make better choices. So today, I pray faith for you. I pray that you will have the word that's planted in your heart come alive, so that when you encounter something like a gallbladder attack, you say, no, this is not your portion. And lay hands on that person, with their permission, of course, and pray. And watch the manifestation of the kingdom of God occur. Even if, that person did something that, quote unquote, deserved it. You can't overwhelm your body with really a lot of cheese and expect it not to have some type of response. But even though that was the situation, God's kingdom is higher than that. I was so happy that I was there to pray for my husband and for him to be healed. And, he didn't have to change it one moment of his day. He went and did the rest of his day just as he had scheduled it. So go today, go like Jesus and do everything that he did and even greater. And the way we do that is we become his vessel. So if you have believed in him, you have the right to do that, because Jesus said all who believe. Now back to my point about the challenge. There are some who believe that Jesus gave that power, all power and authority to heal, drive out demons, raise the dead, to only the apostles. And once they died, that was the end. But I want you to consider this. Number one, when Jesus breathed on them, when he returned from heaven after his resurrection, he breathed the Holy Spirit in them. That's John 20 and 23 especially. So read the book of John 20. He filled them with his Holy Spirit to do his works. And when you and I are filled with the power of God to do his works, and the Bible in Acts says that the first manifestation of that would be speaking in tongues, we will have the power to do what he did and even greater. So if you haven't been filled with the Holy Spirit, and that was asked in the Bible, have you been filled with the Holy Spirit since you believed in Jesus? And some said, oh, we didn't even know there was a thing. Maybe you don't know there is a thing. Go to your Bible and read about it. That should be the final authority in your life, to read about the infilling, the empowering of the Holy Spirit, so you can do what Jesus did and even greater. And then go do it. Start your practicing. And then you'll be a true son or daughter, those who obey what Jesus commands. Jesus said, produce fruit in keeping with repentance. One of those fruits is, we have the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And we also have what Jesus said we would be doing, which would be lay hands on the sick and they'll recover, cast out demons, raise the dead, handle snakes, drink any deadly thing. Now that's not like go pick up a snake and start toying with it, but it means when you come across things like that, you're not going to die. So walk in the Spirit today. That means you're going to hear from God and do what he says. And you're going to speak in your spiritual language to empower yourself. You're going to bring downloads from heaven that way. And there are a few different types of speaking in tongues. One is for your own edification to build yourself up. The other is a message for somebody else. So seek the Lord today about all he has for you. Remember back when you gave Christmas gifts, or even more recently you gave an Easter basket, and you planned and prepared and selected or picked it out at the store, and you gave it to the recipient. What if they just looked at it, cute, but didn't open it and didn't use it? You would feel like, oh my gosh, you've rejected my gift. Well, let's not do that to God. Let's not reject the gifts that He has given us, because the gifts that God gives actually gives more, right? We not only give God the pleasure of using His gifts to lay hands on the sick and they recover, but it helps that person. And then that person's faith is built up. And then that person goes and does the same. So it's reproducing in its kind, right? So let's remember, we have a couple of choices with everything we face today. We can fear it or we can faith it. And very recently, I heard a definition of fear that was, kind of splitting time. I'm thinking AC/DC from my late husband. That was his favorite band. So, after death, AD and BC. And this is the definition. Fear means to put yourself under the authority of. So if I'm fearing God, I'm putting myself under the authority of God. And the Bible does say, guess what? Fear God. But then there's the other fear. There's the fear which is from the other kingdom. And all it is indicating that fear is here, but don't let it in. And that is fearing Satan. If you fear Satan, you're putting yourself under the authority of Satan. And that leads down the road that Judas took. And that's the road of destruction. So let's put ourselves under the authority of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit today. And let's bring life and healing to His children. Don't forget John 14:12, where Jesus said, all who believe. Not, well, it's over because the disciples have died. And just circling back to that to close today. Do you remember when Judas betrayed Jesus? It was after the betrayal that it says Satan entered him. When you betray, it opens the door for the enemy to come in. There's a first mention of sin in the Bible, which is compelling in Genesis, where God is speaking to Cain directly. And probably teach on that one day. But it was when Judas chose to betray Jesus and he had completed that act that Satan entered into him. And that drove him to death. He killed himself. Don't choose betrayal. Don't allow Satan a door. And like those pigs in the Gadarenes, Judas went and killed himself, because he had been entered into by Satan. So be loyal. Be loyal today. Even when you don't understand sometimes what loyalty is, it's a choice. It's a choice to love. But once Judas had died, were there now 11 disciples? Certainly. Did Jesus say, well, tough luck. I guess when we get to 0, we're done? No. The disciples got together and said, okay, we need to replace him. They asked of God, they cast lots, and they chose Matthias. So 12 again. Now, these men did have lifespans, and they did die. And Matthias, we don't hear very much out of from the Bible from him. It's believed that he went to, Asia Minor and ministered for months. But remember, Saul, God has not left us as orphans. He's not left us without His truth. He's not left us without His ways. So, Saul, who was the chief of sinners, who was killing Christians and enjoying it, I would guess, who was using the law to justify his choices, had an encounter with Jesus. Not the Jesus who had been pre-crucifixion, who was walking around with the disciples for 3.5 years, teaching them, sleeping with them, eating with them, telling them what to do and how to do it. No, he encountered the risen and ascended Lord. And that's how any of us do that. When we encounter Christ, we're not encountering him with his, 33-year-old self. We're encountering the risen, ascended Christ who visits each one of us and gives us what we need to believe. And that's how I can be a disciple of Christ. So I'm going to go today and do what God has called me to do. I'm going to pray and say, Lord, what are we going to do in this situation? My prayer every morning is, Lord, show me how we're going to snatch these ones from the gates of hell today. Show me how to enlarge your kingdom today. That's my everyday prayer. That will be done by loving people. That will be done by healing people that they can see the power of God. That will be done by casting out demons. That will be done by raising the dead. That will be done by being bitten by snakes and recovering. Not that I'm going to go handle any, but if I encounter any, I'm going to recover. That's going to be done by drinking any deadly thing and recovering. So I welcome you to join me on this journey and read John 14. It's a beautiful, beautiful chapter. John 14:1 says, do not allow, or don't give permission to, right? If you've got kids and you didn't allow them to do something, you are telling them you don't have permission to do that. Do not allow your heart to be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. That's Jesus. And just 12 verses later, he says, and those who believe, if you don't believe, you won't do it. For those of us who believe, we will do the things that Jesus did and even greater. So let's go change the world today. Let's lift up Jesus so that all men are drawn to him. And let's change the reputation of Jesus and show the world that there is power. There's power in the name of Jesus. There's power in the blood of Jesus. There's power in the truth of Jesus to live an empowered, conquering life. I bless you guys today, and I look forward to your good report. Bye-bye.